What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got another discussion video talking about the new Archetype Appliancers. Now this is a really cool archetype, by the way. Before we even get into any of this, I love the artwork for these cards. I seriously love it. I think they're cute. I think they're interesting, and I really hope they get more support in the future. And that's kind of what I'm focusing on today. Is one, like how this deck should be built first and foremost, but also two, what the deck's missing and what I hope the deck can get in the future, and some possible tech choices as well. So just an overall encompassing, discussion about a new archetype. So if you don't know how Appliancers work, they play a bunch of link spammy kind of little monsters. They're all level 1 machines. They're all very weak. Machine dupe. And your whole goal is to end on a link 2 pointing with at least 1 or 2 of the link 1s underneath of it, because they get bonus effects depending on whether they're co-linked or not co-linked, just because they just have, most of them have 2 effects, and they get corresponding ones depending on how they're linked up, which is pretty cool. So I think they're interesting. I don't think other than Sky Strikers we've really seen an archetype that really delved into the whole link 1 thing, being able to move into multiple link 1s and make use of a lot of utility there. Obviously Sky Strikers did it, and the Sky Strikers are way better than this deck, at least at this point in the game. But also Sky Strikers have the restriction where they're really only allowed to have 1 on the field at any time, so they never really spanned the board. This deck is let me end on the link 2 that's not very strong, and 2 link 1s that's pointing, that are below it. So you really try and spam a good amount out. You have some nice utility there. You have destruction. You have the ability to out monsters with Laundry Dragon and Vacuolifant, and then some recursion off him, and then Dryer Drake giving you battle protection. They really cover a myriad of things, but one thing the deck really doesn't have, and that's where my main problem for the deck is it doesn't have any disruption. I said this when I went over my initial review of the new archetype when it came out. I said, wow, there's literally no inherent disruption built into this deck at all. And so that leads me to my next point, which I think right now, or at least when Appliancers get released, I guess, for the very first time, if you want to play the deck, I think the best way to do it is unfortunately just you have to play a going second, an all-out blind going second version. I say unfortunately because I don't think this deck's even inherently amazing going second. I think it's okay. It has some nice removal effects, but there's nothing inherently busted. Got a hair in my mouth. About this archetype that specifically rings to me oh, that's a going second archetype. I felt a lot of the stuff is oh, you can do some interesting combos, set up some interesting protection, but then when there's just no disruption, you're I kind of just can't go first, unfortunately. So that's why it's led me to this kind of build. Now keep in mind, this is a very early rough draft. I've done I haven't done much testing with this at all, so there's really not a ton of basis behind it, but I do want to throw this out there as an initial build. And I think Kaijus are a really interesting piece here, because if you are going to be playing a going second deck, you really want to be playing a deck that can really apply pressure to your opponent on that second turn immediately. And this deck, also another reason why going second it's not that great, is it doesn't put damage on the board. It really doesn't. One way that you can potentially OTK is with Laundry Dragon, because he kills a monster and then he burns your opponent, equal to that monster's attack, I believe. So if you give your opponent a big kaiju, you can hit trade the Laundry Dragon for the kaiju and then burn your opponent. If you give him the big one, Jizukiru, you're burning for 3,300, and then from there on you only need 4,700 extra damage. If you were able to give yourself a kaiju and your opponent the Jizukiru, you'd also be able to maybe beat in with another potential 3,000, and then there's only 1,700 damage left over that you need to get in for. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it way easier, and that's why I think the kaijus are kind of important here. And also the hand traps we're playing are not the super crazy impactful hand traps. We're not playing Nibiru here. We're not playing I guess Gamma would be another one. We're playing more of the mid-range hand traps, not the ones that are crazy insane, but if you limit your opponent's board with 1 or 2 of these, then 1 kaiju will probably be enough to help even out the boards and really give yourself a chance to start cracking into those monsters and really getting some of that stuff removed. There. So I felt the kaijus are pretty good. 2 kaiju slimmer. I just think 3 could be a little bit bricky there. Other than that, though, we move down here. We move to these cards. Machine Duplication, a really nice extender for the deck. If either you're not playing through that much disruption, or even as an extender, you could just literally either a bait or something normal summon any of your level 1s, activate the dupe to get 2 more copies out of the deck, and you're either going to bait and negate, or it's going to resolve, and you're going to be able to make some legit link plays into your opponent's board, which is really nice. 3 were Archetype, just because having any level 1 on the field can get you a search for another one, and Sakatro kind of specials himself, so that's like a pretty good search there. And then the other thing is that like Valor is also level 1, so if like one thing that I don't like out of like certain decks is if you're not able, so with certain OTK decks, if you're not able to get the OTK going second, if you can't set up any kind of interruption from that point on, your opponent probably won't have much trouble like doing another sort of combo or play into your board and then being able to just like crack back at you and break through again. So having the potential to like wear Arfthau into Valor, if you don't really need any of the other monsters, you're just like, I'll just take a Valor and I at least have a Valor to hit my opponent up on their next turn. That could also be very nice. So that's pretty much it there. And the only real spice here, I'm just kind of keeping it simple here, keeping it with all the utility cards for the Appliancers. I am looking at 2 Relinquished Anima. I mean, any deck that plays like level 1s that are super easy to get out or super consistently getting out, you should probably play at least 1 copy of Anima. 2 may be overkill, but I have 2 here just because I couldn't really think of anything else. Linkuriboh doesn't really make sense based on how the deck really wants to run anyway. But this is a really spicy card. I mean, your opponent misplays, just like isn't careful about their zoning, and just leaves them any monster above the extra monster zone. You are up in there like swimwear. You're taking that monster for free, which is really nice. And then looking at some other options. So with some of these options here, these are the 2 main ones right here that I think are really cool, and they kind of go hand in hand. They kind of go together. 4-Month Skipper is really cool because 4-Month Skipper can essentially be linked off as considered as an Appliancer monster to make any of the link ones, which are really nice. And then on summon, he would get to search you the Parallel Exceed. Now, the one thing that is kind of iffy there is the link ones can't be used as material this turn they are summoned. So that is a little bit iffy there. But if you could make any other link summon from that point on, or maybe this would be why you would play maybe something like the Anima or something like Linkuriboh, because at least you'd be pointing down. And then if you could ever just get to a link any other time, Parallel Exceed would be summonable from there. So I don't think it's like the craziest thing in the world, but I think it's like, all right, it's like, it's fine, I guess. The other reason I really like Parallel Exceed, though, is because if you ever wanted to play a going first version of this deck, you could just play like Parallel Exceed and be able to just throw a rank 4 onto whatever board, because like almost every hand of this deck is going to be very consistent, at least being able to just get to the link 2. He is the only one that points down, I might add to you, and that's when you'll drop the Exceed. The Exceed will get another Exceed, and you'll be able to at least make a rank 4, make something like a Baguska, a Dweller, some of these like more defensive cards that at least are going to like stymie your opponent for 1 turn, so that you can get things going on your next turn to really start pushing your opponent and pressuring them. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I just think it's just such a good extender. I think it would behoove any player. It's a common, it's super cheap, it's going to be very like readily available. If you don't have a playset of Parallel Exceed, get them now. This card is going to be played in so many things. It's just such a good extender and anything that can make links there. So those are like really cool options as well that I thought were like pretty interesting for the deck that maybe could come up. I don't know. 4-Month Skipper is also technically searchable off where Arfthau. I don't know if you'd be searching him, but maybe you'd be summoning him and at least increasing consistency to being able to search for something else off of where Arfthau, right? Like something like that. That could be something. I don't know. It's fine. I don't think it's like crazy. I think it's okay. And then the other things I want to talk about, obviously you're not going to be playing Salamangreat Roar or Rage in the deck, but I did think that like these are like perfect examples of like if I could get 2 cards for Appliancers in like maybe the next core set after Appliancers get fully come out in like whatever they're coming out. I think they're in the collection pack in the OCG. They might be in Battles of Legend for us. I can't remember what set exactly we're getting them in. Whatever. These would be almost like very close to what I would want from if we were going to get like 2 cards in the next core set, like after Appliancers come out. And I'd be like, just throw these in there. I mean, our field spell searches any Appliancer card. If we get any disruptive traps, any, I don't know, Appliancer hand trap maybe. I mean, we've seen Noble Knights get a hand trap. Subterrors have their own hand trap. And they're like, the Subterror one is good. The Noble Knight one is not good. But like, that could work. I mean, that would work. We just need something, and I really think that like the link engine of this deck really isn't that bad. You really like reassemble it super easy a lot of the time. The problem is just having a legit play to like mess with your opponent. You can't rely on seeing hand traps. You can't rely on seeing, you know what I mean? Just like the cards that you have no access to other than just hard drawing them. You just can't rely on that without playing an obscene amount of them. And then at that point, you're just like losing consistency of like actually getting to your engine like you want to. And it's just like actually more counterintuitive than it's actually helping your deck at all. So I really would love to see this. I mean, if we got these, like these would be perfect. Just like literally put Appliancer in the name instead of Salamangrate, and you know, and then like literally this could be like so clean for the deck, like actually like so strong. But yeah, that's pretty much it there. Again, I might be looking at like testing this video in the upcoming weeks and seeing how this deck can actually do. But again, like I'm not the biggest going second player out there. I'm really not a fan of decks like that usually. But I still really like this deck. I still like the Archetype, the cards that we have so far. I really think there are some really nice tools here to start us off here. I just hope that like Konami doesn't just ignore this deck and does, you know, say, hey, this deck definitely needs some help. It's a cool, interesting, fun new archetype. Let's throw it a card or two that like really helps the biggest weakness of the deck. So yeah, that's pretty much all my main thoughts for Appliancers at the moment, guys. Of course, as always, throw your comments down below if you think I missed anything, if there's anything interesting to note there. Definitely let me know down below. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't, because I make videos like this. I make deck profiles. I make news videos when new cards come out, and anything interesting that I feel like, you know, sharing comes out. And yeah, so subscribe for more of that, and I guess I will see you in the next video. Peace. Ay, ay, ay. Mamacita.